what's going on? I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down. Look what we got. It's Julie Stiles. Hustlers out on DVD.
Yep.
How's it going? Good to meet you.
Good to meet you, yeah.
So I was telling you, I watched this morning, which is definitely an interesting movie to check out like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But just jumped right into it, and it was a lot of fun to check it out.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
I was hiding it on the bus a little bit.
Yeah, hiding the screen from the other passengers.
Exactly.
As they watch like Jennifer Lopez tour. Yeah.
But your character was awesome, and it's somebody that you've read her writing in the past. So what was the intrigue about playing this role?
Oh my God, when I was sent the script, I remembered reading the article about these women when it first came out. So I was already intrigued, and I had been a fan of this journalist for a while. She wrote a bunch of other articles for New York Magazine that are also being turned into TV shows. But so when I spoke to the director, and I read her adaptation, it was like, it was already there on the page. And this is the kind of movie that you could make 5 different versions of, and I just loved the take on it and the perspective. So I told Lorene Scafaria, the director, like, I don't care. She said to me in our interview, she was like, okay, well, if you have any other questions, and I was like, my question is, what do I have to do to be in this movie? Because I loved it, and I just wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because some roles you play, it's not a real person. You really have to make things up. But this is a real person, a real story. Were there challenges in that, or did you like the fact that you could kind of relate the whole thing to somebody who's already out there?
I mean, I like that I've kind of fangirled and got to meet Jessica Pressler, but I told her that I wasn't going to imitate her. That she didn't have to worry. I wasn't going to do like that. I was gonna have to suit the story as a whole and not try and do some imitation of her. But she was a great resource to be able to talk to her and just pick her brain about what really happened and how she got in touch with these women, how she found out about it in the first place, and all the little details that some of which don't end up in the film. It was really nice. What
are some details that didn't end up in there that were pretty interesting to you?
Well, it's not really a detail, it's actually a significant point. But to me, what's really surprising and interesting, and maybe shouldn't surprise me, is that the club was never prosecuted.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Scores.
The scene of the crime.
Yeah, and also like they were skimming money off the backs of these women for a long time and had to have known what was going on in the champagne room, and it was on credit card tabs, so like they never were prosecuted.
Right, we're just going to turn off the cameras and, you know, we're not going to talk about this? We kind of
make a joke about it in the film, but my character is interviewing the cops too, who had a sting and ended up arresting the dancers, and they go like, oh, after the first guy came forward and we heard about it, we were so afraid to go back to the club, and my character kind of was like, oh, okay, around, so you were customers too.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on here. I mean, between the women themselves, the men on Wall Street, the police, just like the emotional roller coaster you go on. Like, what was it like for you to watch everybody unpacking those different emotions? It
was really interesting, and it was kind of like an acting class for me, because most of what my character's doing is asking questions and listening, and trying not to react too hardcore because she might make her subject like self-conscious. So I got to watch Constance Wu in these amazing, like, emotional, rich, you know, interesting monologues, basically. My first day on set, I showed up, and it was my interview with Jennifer Lopez's character, and this woman walks on set, and I'm like, who are you, and what have you done with J-Lo? Because my jaw was on the floor. She had completely transformed into this other person.
It's really interesting just because you think about it from a moral perspective, and it's like, yeah, these things that were happening were wrong, but people are desperate, and they're just trying to survive. So that's like this whole little interesting storyline along the way. So what fascinated you the most about what the women were doing and kind of what was happening throughout the story?
Well, I mean, the topic of like strippers and sex workers, prostitutes, whatever, has been throughout film history. But to me, what was fresh and interesting about our movie is something that my character says. She looks at Constance and says, like, I know I'm supposed to feel bad for these guys, but I actually don't. And I'm the person in the film that approaches everything with compassion. So maybe initially she's a little skeptical and reminding these women, like, wait, you were doing what? Like, that's not okay. But then eventually she turns around and quickly comes to, like, kind of understand what they were doing and maybe have some respect for them in terms of them being entrepreneurs. And what we deal with is largely like the economic circumstances that they were in. And
no question.
there's some really effective scenes where they go to apply for other jobs, minimum wage jobs, and not only is it difficult to get that work because they don't have the resumes, but also they're gonna bust their asses for like minimum wage. You know, it makes so much more sense to be doing what they're doing. I mean, you know, financially.
No, I totally understand. I mean, just given the hours that they're putting in, you guys do a good job in the movie showing everybody that's putting their hands in and getting a cut of the money. Like, it's not an easy thing. And like, just the way that we talk about strippers in society, like we don't talk about them being entrepreneurs. We have a much different perspective of it. So what have been the reactions that you've seen that have been most interesting to you, you know, on both sides of the spectrum here?
Yeah, I mean, it's been everything from people loving the movie, but some people being really uncomfortable with, and you know, it was interesting before the movie came out when I would just tell my friends and family, like, oh, I'm doing this movie. By the way, I'm not playing a stripper. Don't worry. Some people would go, oh, that sounds really cool. And some people would be like, oh, so they're not very likable. You know, it's provocative, that's for sure.
You're going to get both reactions for sure. And this was like a really quick movie. It was 30 days. Like, when you think about the way this was shot compared to movies even 5 years ago, like, what stands out to you the most about movies today?
Well, it's really hard to get movies like this made in the first place. I know it took the producers a while to get it up off the ground because it's not a giant Marvel movie. It's not like it's not an obvious blockbuster. The subject matter is difficult, even though I think there are a lot of really fun moments in it. And yeah, movies, because so many people watch television more, it's harder to get movies made.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time because TV is so big. Like, you've been doing some TV as well, and like, that's great, but like, there are really interesting stories to tell, and these are the stories that should be told. But it feels like throughout, like, funding movies has just always been a difficult thing.
But one thing that's really is so exciting to me is this Hustlers made a lot of money at the box office, so we got people to actually go to the theater. But to me, the most significant part of that is that, like, hopefully we'll now make more movies like this, written and directed by a woman, a story about women, and I mean a story about women like what my character does, which is she looks at these strippers who normally in their life are like exploited, taken advantage of, not in control of their own livelihood, and she goes, wait, who are you and what's your story? And I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, and not judging right there when you first walk in, but letting that person tell their story and empathizing with that person as well.
Exactly, and because you know, there's a lot of times in movies there's the stripper character, but she's just like a sidebar.
Right,
she's not a fully formed person.
No, it's like, this is actually a humanized person here. We really get to understand the details, the emotions, everything that goes into that life. I think the movie does a great job of that.
Cool, thank you.
You got it. So when I think about your career, what it's like, Mona Lisa, Silver Linings Playbook, the Bourne movies, like, all really great movies. Like, when you think about those, what were some of the decisions you made to jump into those? Like, script is obviously a big thing that people talk about, the people you work with, but what appealed to you about some of those projects? I
mean, honestly, I think when I was in my 20s, I wasn't that thoughtful. Like, I was just kind of like, hey, that seems like an interesting world to explore. Oh, I want to go to that country. Like, yeah, I want to work with that person. It wasn't, I think now I'm more thoughtful and maybe careful about what I do. With Hustlers, this was like the first movie that I've been in, or project that I've been involved in for a while, where I was like thinking about it days afterwards. And so that's kind of what I hope for, is like, you can't really control how a movie's going to come out, but I just hope that it's, I don't know, it was even just like a visceral thing. It was just really exciting to be part of. Just kind of sticks
with you, I can understand that.
It's thought-provoking. And I guess, you know, you hope that it's the script, but I think a lot of times you have to be a little bit forgiving, because you know that there's so much else that goes into getting how a movie turns out other than just the script. I was lucky because Hustlers was definitely on the page. But yeah, the script, and then whoever's going to, whether it's the director or the producers, who's going to be really in control, because it's not really an actor's medium. Like, we're just there to
you're not calling the shots.
Story. No, and you have no control over the edit or anything like that. So I think I keep those things in mind a little bit more now. So
when do you think that shifted for you? Like, at what point in your career?
Like 30, when I turned 30, or like weirdly around that time, because I just, that was the moment when I had maybe more experience in terms of trial and error and witnessing. Yeah, I don't know. It was just around that time.
And just also
maturing
in life, too.
Yeah,
you're not in your 20s anymore. You've done a bunch of things. You kind of know what you want. So it makes a ton of sense. You mentioned that you're a little more cautious when you pick things. What kind of goes into that?
Oh, I also ended up directing some short films, and so getting behind the camera and getting into an editing room like really helped me understand the process more, and that helped me a lot.
And you've mentioned you want to do some more of that too when it comes to directing, right?
I do, but I don't. That'll be like a long-term goal.
Like down the road.
You know, yeah. I work on a TV show now called Riviera that you know is a good chunk of time, and I have a 2-year-old, so it's like
a lot going on.
I don't. We'll see when I have a freer schedule. Maybe.
I gotcha. What appeals to you about getting behind the camera? What do you like the most about it?
Well, it's daunting. It's a lot more responsibility. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I acted in that film, but the director fucked it up, so sorry, I'm cursing too much. You have to take responsibility for it, and everyone's coming to you with questions. You're the one who has to have the answers, so it's a lot more work. But it's exciting because, you know, you're the sculptor.
Yeah, that's cool. When you were at Columbia and you're like 18, 19, what were you thinking your life was going to look like? But like before you do 10 Things I Hate About You, like where were you at in your life before all this stuff happened?
Oh, I didn't think that far ahead. I mean, I think one thing that's really exciting is that maybe when I was in university, if I thought forward to, you know, 20 years down the road in my career, I might have been nervous about what opportunities there would be for me.
Right.
And there was a thing, you know, it sounds silly to say because I don't feel old at all. I feel actually quite youthful, but I guess at that time it was, you know, you were either the ingenue or maybe you'd play a mom and then your career would kind of fizzle out. And there were maybe 3 or 5 actresses that could have sustained careers into their 40s, 50s, whatever.
Right, now we have people in their 60s and 70s and 80s.
And they're good parts. You know, there are good parts available for my peers and me. So that's nice.
Yeah, I'd say so. Who are other people you look to and you're like, I like what this person's doing, or this person's really doing great stuff? Like, who's an influence to you when you look around the industry?
So many. I mean, I think I always love Amy Adams' work. I'm really inspired by all these actresses getting out there and directing. Like Frankie Shaw, who I went to college with, created Smilf, and I really love that show. Olivia Wilde with Booksmart. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who did Killing Eve and Fleabag, yeah. I mean, and whether they're in front of the camera or not, they have been creating their own content and directing more too, and that they could be taken seriously as actresses too is really exciting. Yeah,
and just think about the range of stories you just discussed right there. I mean, those are stories that weren't being told 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
These weren't people who were in positions to have that power.
Yeah.
And now that more women are in these positions, it's nice that we have some fresher stories. Like it's really taken some time to kind of break through.
Yeah, and I mean, and look at Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I mean, Fleabag and Killing Eve are like total opposites.
Totally different. Yeah, but both hit with different types of audiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool thing. So what have been some of the keys to your success when you think about the sustainability in Hollywood? Like you said, like it's trial and error. It's not an easy thing to do to keep it going. So what has worked for you along the way?
I think like understanding that there are going to be ebbs and flows to your career, and what has worked for me. I don't know. I think at least with Hustlers, to me, the success of Hustlers is an affirmation that my instincts are right, and that like, you know, I read the script and I thought, oh, this is like, this movie needs to come out now. It's seizing on perfect for the time.
Yeah.
And it's going to hit on something that I think people are interested in. And so to know that, you know, other people feel the same way and an audience feels the same way is an affirmation to me.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, this is definitely blown up in a bigger way too, which I think is really cool. When you think about other movies you've done, is there one you can pick out that you're like, I did not see this coming. Like, I didn't think this was going to be such a big deal, and then it turned into something much grander than that.
Jason Bourne. I was 19, and I was in my college dorm when they sent me. They wouldn't send me the script. They'd just send the pages for the scenes that I would be in. And I remember stupidly being like, oh, but I can't miss my final exams. Luckily, I didn't listen to that voice and decided to be in the film. And I thought, at the time, like, I liked it, but I thought, it wasn't, you know, it was shot like an indie film, different visual style. Matt Damon was a star, but he wasn't necessarily an action star. And my character died at the end of the first Bourne, the Bourne Identity. And then they recut it. You know, so I thought it was just going to be like...
You thought it was just a one-off.
Yeah,
and that's it.
And then I had no idea it would be 4 movies later.
And then it turns into a whole blockbuster.
Yeah.
And you never see that coming.
No, I had no idea.
So what's one conversely that you thought would hit big and then it just totally kind of fizzled out?
Those tend to not be so surprising.
You kind of, in the moment? Or as it's going on?
Either as it's going on, or I don't know. I'm not gonna name names, but
Sure.
like there were some times where I guess people around me were kind of encouraging me to be a part of a trend that and as soon as you can identify it as a trend, it's like on its way out.
Yeah, it's like when something goes viral, you don't want to talk about it then.
Yeah, it's like it's done.
Yeah, because you don't want to get pigeonholed into that as the trend is going down. Like if it's going up, sure, that's awesome. But
right.
Yeah, it's all about timing with all this stuff too.
But I'm saying if you can call it a trend, it's probably already passé. So
yeah,
you've missed the boat.
Definitely, and I'm sure at that point in your career, you have a bunch of people you're listening to, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll give this a shot.
Sure, and I was really young.
Right,
I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like,
you finally got to 30 and you're like, okay, now at least I kind of have some idea of what I want to do and stuff like that. But yeah, at that point you're just like, yeah, these people seem to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. So when you think about the next couple of years of your career, what are some other things you'd like to do, other parts you'd like to play, stuff like that?
Well, I'm about to go, I'm in the middle of shooting season 3 of Riviera, so my head's really there right now. But I think once that finishes, yeah, I'd like to look for something to direct, and honestly, I really cannot think beyond the next 3 months.
You're just
somebody
like
very focused on the here
and now. You live in the present, which I like. Some people are just kind of so far in the future. Like I've been like that in my life, where I'm so far in the future that I'm missing the present.
Yeah.
You're just very much in the present. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, or I mean, I don't know, just take ownership more of like what I'm doing. Maybe I like that Phoebe Waller-Bridge was whether you write and direct something, it's like to maybe create your own show would be exciting. I mean, there's so many things that I want to do. It's just a question of time.
Right. Do you want to do theater again?
I do love being on stage.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes I want to do over on some of the things that I've already. So like.
Why is that?
I did Shakespeare in the Park when I was 22, and I something like, I don't know that I'd want to do that, but I'd sort of like a do-over on, because I was young and I was learning as I go.
Yeah, I can't even imagine at that point, like your early teen, like your teens into your 20s, like so much was happening for you. Like, do you feel like you absorbed a lot of that? Or do you feel like there's certain things like that, like, yeah, it'd be cool to kind of do that over again, to kind of get a little bit more of it? I
think I'm enjoying it more now. I'm savoring it more now.
Right.
And I'm going like, okay, this is special, so just, enjoy the experience. Whereas before maybe it was kind of a blur, or I was too nervous to figure out what, to stand back and go like, ah.
Yeah, I'm sure you're just trying to get through. Like, there's a lot going on at that point in your life.
Yeah.
You're just trying to be like, all right, let me just grow up as a woman and also grow my career at the same time.
There's a lot going on now too, but but I'm able to see it more.
I gotcha. So when people check this out, if they haven't seen it yet, what are some of the big thoughts you want them to take away from it?
I don't really want to. I don't want to like spoil anything. I think it's a big journey. Like we start off with Jennifer Lopez doing this amazing dance routine. So so we have these moments where you get sucked into what these women were seduced by, which was all of a sudden they were running in a world where they had no power and no control really. And then when they figure out a way to turn the tables and seize that, they're excited about the money that they're pulling in, but there's really, I think they're full of adrenaline on having this power. And I think the audience really is with them in terms of how fun that was.
Yeah.
But then my character comes along and is like, wait a minute.
We're gonna knock that down real quick.
Yeah, you were doing what? You were drugging them, and so it's a big journey.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Which is what you want from a movie.
No question.
Yeah.
Really nice to meet you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Too.
Check out Julia and Hustlers. You won't be disappointed. For Julia, I'm DJ. See you next time. You're on The Sit Down.